Today I'm sharing everything I knit in 2024. I'm so excited to film this video. We have a lot to get through. I picked up knitting needles pretty much for the first time on January the 7th, 2024, which means as of filming this video today, right now, I've been knitting for less than a year. That absolutely blows my mind because I honestly couldn't imagine my life now without knitting in it. It's become such a huge part of my life, an absolute new passion of mine that I think about and I'm consumed by every single day. I really hope that this video inspires some of you to pick up a new hobby or a new passion or start a new project in 2025. I also really hope that this inspires some of you to pick up knitting maybe for the first time, or if you haven't done it in a while. I think my progress here will go to show that how much you can achieve in just a year if you really feel passionate and love something so much. The reason I picked up knitting was because I hated sitting in front of the telly every evening doom scrolling. I hated being on my phone so much. I really just wanted to learn a skill and really something that I could do with my hands to keep me busy and to distract me from my phone, if that makes sense. That and the idea of making my own clothes from scratch, I was just like, knitting seems like the perfect hobby. I'm like killing two birds with one stone. I'm like lowering my consumption of fast fashion. I'm making my own garments. It's a lot more of a slow and conscious fashion process, which I really love the idea of. And also obviously the fact that I'm getting off my phone and I'm making something, like being a bit more creative and crafty. That really, like, I had a gap in my life for that kind of stuff. I think they're some of the reasons that I've fallen so in love with the knitting, and of course the amazing knitting community here on YouTube, which again I've just fallen in love with. I like do my makeup every single morning watching a knitting podcast on YouTube, and it fills me with so much joy. We're going to get going in chronological order just so you can see how far I've come and how my skills have developed over the course of a year. So we're going to kick off with the first thing I ever knit, which is a scarf. So on January the 7th I picked up a pair of 12mm knitting needles and some chunky yarn. Now I just wanted to knit a scarf. That was all I wanted to do. I didn't think it would get to the point that it has now. I'm not gonna lie, it took me about 3 days to teach myself how to cast on. The knit stitch I picked up pretty quickly. I'm an English style knitter, and I also experimented with purl stitching on this scarf as well. So this scarf is like a little bit of a mess. So we've got garter stitch here, and then we've got some stockinette stitch here when I taught myself how to purl. I didn't realise that stockinette obviously like rolls inwards, so some of it rolls in, some of it doesn't. And then also some like monumental hole right at the end. I don't know what went wrong here. I still don't know what went wrong. Maybe I did an accidental yarn over, but I've kept my project like this because it was my first ever knit, and I think it just goes to show how far you can come and how the imperfections can also make something so much more beautiful. Like, it shows that this is handmade, and comparing it to everything I've made since, you can see how far my progress has come. So for this I used the cheeky chunky yarn from Wool Couture. I think they've renamed it since. Now it's just a chunky yarn from Wool Couture, but I would really recommend this. It is so soft. It's like the softest scarf ever, and I think in total this took me about a week to make, which for my first knitting project I was so excited about. So if you're a beginner and you're looking for where to start, I highly recommend a chunky scarf. It works up really quickly, it will keep you interested, you can try out new techniques on it, and you get a scarf at the end of the day. Love it. After my scarf I decided I was in the mood to try and make my first garment, and I ended up choosing this pattern that I found on the Love Crafts website. When I was a newbie to knitting and hadn't discovered Ravelry yet, Love Crafts was just a really cool website where you could find loads of yarn to purchase and also patterns. So this is the April Vest by Vicky Knits. I absolutely love Vicky Knits as a knitwear designer, especially if you're a beginner. The pattern really hands-hold you through the whole process, and she's also done videos of like how to make the garments like for each pattern that you'll purchase, which is just, oh my god, it was so helpful when I first started knitting. I don't think I would have been able to do it without her videos kind of hand holding me through the way, and also there were loads of pictures in the patterns as well. I purchased the recommended yarn, which was the Feeling Good yarn from Wool and the Gang, and it's really beautiful. It's kind of very bright on my camera screen, but in real life it's more of like a dark orange red, which I think is so beautiful. I'm really happy I chose this pattern for my first garment because it's a sleeveless sweater. No, I didn't have to worry about the sleeves. What I learned so much in this project, I learned how to do 1x1 rib knit, which took me honestly about 2 weeks to learn how to do. I ripped it back about 5 times. I just kept getting like so far, and then there'd be a mistake and I didn't know how to fix it. I very nearly gave up knitting, I should say, when I was learning how to do this rib stitch, but I kept on going, and now I just have the most beautiful sweater vest I still wear all the time. I have to ignore the slight line here where it's been folded. I really don't know how to store my garments still. I just store them like folded in a wardrobe. I really like the ribbing around the neckline, and also learned how to pick up stitches around an arm and do ribbing there. This sweater I think is worked on 6.5mm needles, and also it's worked in sections that you then seam together with Kitchener stitch at the end. I decided to seam and leave a little bit of an open gap at the bottom of the ribbing, and I just love this pattern. Still wear it so much, would probably make it again in some different colours and sizes. If you're a beginner, highly recommend. Oh my god, also this yarn is just so soft. Like, I would highly recommend this yarn. It's kind of on the pricey side, but really soft. Next up, I knit my first ever cardigan. So this is the Let's Boogie cardigan by a designer called A Honey Knits. I used Drops Wish for this, which again, so soft. This was my like introduction to drops, and I've used a lot of them and their yarns this year, just because as a beginner it's a very affordable yarn that I would actually recommend to any beginners to start off with, because they're really well priced. So if you treat yourself to some yarn and you don't end up loving knitting, it doesn't matter because it's not too much of a big expense. This cardigan was my first ever raglan construction, which was amazing. I absolutely loved learning how to do a raglan. So you cast on the neckline. For this I cast on the neckline with the yarn held double, and then you go into yarn held single for the actual raglan. So you've got the raglan increases along here. I don't wear this cardigan very much for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, I don't know why I knit it in this colour. Buying yarn online is really difficult sometimes because the colours aren't exactly what you expect. I don't know why I knit 2 green things in my first couple of months of knitting. I don't have any green in my wardrobe apart from these 2 things. So I really wish I had done this in a navy instead of a green, or even maybe a black. The other reason I don't wear it too often is because I think the sleeves are kind of short. It was my first time doing sleeves and like cuff with the magic loop, which obviously is a bit tricky. I don't know what's gone on here. I've got like I haven't woven that in very well, have I? Okay, first time properly weaving in ends, did not go to plan. I think I wanted more of a boxy oversized cardigan, whereas this isn't too boxy. Also because I put a lifeline into this cardigan, and I don't know what I did wrong. I think maybe I used a lifeline that was too chunky, but you can really see where that lifeline was, and that just completely ruins the cardigan for me and makes me not want to wear it anymore. Apart from those 3 things, I do actually really like this, and I would make this cardigan again, just in a different colour and maybe size up. I also experimented with some crochet like I-cord bows, which I can insert a picture of, although I don't think it worked, so I ended up taking them off. My first cardigan, what do you guys think? Okay, this was probably my biggest fail of the year, and it's a garment that I have never worn. Oh my god, it's such a fail. I'm dreading putting this on. It's so bad. Oh my god, it's even worse than I remember it being. Okay, this is the Frankie sweater, also by A Honey Knits. I chose this because I absolutely loved the pictures of this on Instagram and on Ravelry, but it just did not turn out well at all. So I used a yarn from Drops. It is Drops Polaris. This is a super chunky knit jumper, and this yarn is so chunky. It's so chunky that it's almost unwearable because it just does not fit under any clothing. Definitely more suited to scarf, like it'd be a great scarf material. This again is worked in panels, so you knit up the front, you knit up the back, and then you knit up the sleeves, and then you seam it all together with mattress or Kitchener stitch, can't remember what one. I don't mind seaming actually. As a beginner knitter, I'm really happy to seam. I find it really relaxing and rewarding when you see it all come together. This jumper, before I blocked it, I looked like the Michelin Man, and even now I blocked it, I still look like the Michelin Man. The sleeves are way too long. Because you knit it up and then seam it together, it's really hard to kind of see how long everything's going to be. So yeah, this was a huge fail. It doesn't fit under any coats. It's kind of stiff. It's got loads of mistakes on it. And I think especially the back, there's like a huge mistake in the back there. I don't know what went wrong. I think I maybe dropped a stitch and didn't know how to fix it. I'd love a jumper like this that was done well, maybe with less chunky yarn. I've also still got 4 balls of this yarn left, which is madness. So if anyone knows what I can do with that, yeah, maybe knit up a scarf or a chunky hat or something like that. I still made a jumper. It was my first proper jumper. Okay, next up we have the Erika Sweater by Vicky Knits. This was my first ever test knit that I completed in April/May. This was a pattern that Vicky created especially for the Lane Publishing, I think it's 52 Weeks of Chunky Knits book. So if you like this pattern, definitely get your hands on that book. I was so excited to do my first test knit, and especially excited to do one for Vicky because obviously her April vest was my first ever piece. This was also my first time doing colour work. I am not sure if I did the colour work correctly. I have no idea. I have like I shouldn't admit this, I have so many ends that I still haven't woven in on this top, just because I didn't realise at the time that you could carry the yarn colour up, and also I was kind of low on some of the yarn colours, so instead just cut the yarn whenever I finished a row. That meant I just had 1,000 ends to weave in, like all up the garment, all up the sleeves, all up the body. This is worked with 5 different colours, and each colour is worked for 2 rows, and I ended up choosing Drops Air for this, and I chose colours that would specifically match my cat Maurice. So we've got like a dark brown, more of like a grey, more of a cream, a black and a beige, and I absolutely love how this worked up. This was another pattern that you work flat in panels and then seam together at the ends. It has a nice big section of rib at the bottom, and then the rest of the garment is worked in garter stitch. Very easy again for beginners because it's no purling apart from the ribbing. It's all just knit stitches. It has kind of balloon sleeves and this long ribbing detail, and I will admit I didn't block this until about 4 months after I finished knitting it, but blocking completely helped change the shape of it, and I absolutely love this garment now. It's kind of long, so I tend to wear it just like tucked in or long with leggings underneath, but since blocking it I've worn this so much. I've taken it on holidays with me. It's a really nice warm jumper that I love. This is who it was based on. So we've got black, we've got the white, we've got the beige, we've got the brown. So this is now called my Maurice sweater. As much as I loved being part of a test knit and also being a test knit for an actual Lane publication, amazing, I really haven't applied for any test knits since then, just because I was so stressed about getting this done on time. The stress was way too much and it began to feel not enjoyable, and as I had only just started knitting, I didn't want that. I didn't want to feel really pressured, and I didn't want to not enjoy my knitting process, so I haven't applied to any test knits since then, and I think I'd only do it in the future if it was a pattern that I really wanted to make or a designer that I really loved, because otherwise it was so stressful. I think I had like 4 weeks to work on this, and I was travelling a lot at the time. Work was super busy, and I was just like proper stressing myself out. No test knit since, but it was a really great learning experience. Okay, it was around this time that I started getting really into Ravelry, and I realised that knitting doesn't have to be chunky knit jumpers. It can be more delicate and more feminine. I don't know about you, but before I started knitting I thought it was kind of like an old hobby, like your granny knits. I didn't know it could be like fun and hip and that you could make actually really nice trendy pieces with your knitwear. I started getting really into more kind of delicate lace weight knitwear projects, which you'll see some of, and I kicked off with this. So this is the Aura top by Rose Knitwear. This was also my first time using mohair, but I used one strand of Drops Kid Silk to make this beautiful top. This was like the most intense pattern I'd made to date in terms of I learned how to do a lot of shaping. There's a lot of like arm shaping up here and like decreases around the armband, which I was completely new to. This top is also kind of worked in pieces. I'm pretty sure you work in the round from the bottom up until the armholes, and then you split and work the front and back panels separately, and then you do the arms separately and then seam them on. I was really nervous about seaming the arms on just because it's a mohair and you could really see any kind of details, but I think I did a really good job of it. And in here as well, you work these flat and then seam them up the side. So I get a lot of wear out of it. It's really easy to dress up or down. I love the colour that I chose. I think this is the shade Light Jeans or Light Blue in Drops Kid Silk. Super affordable project. Did take a little bit of time to work the body. I knit most of the body on my holiday in Greece. We went to Paxos, and yeah, it was just the perfect summer knit because it's just one strand of mohair, which is a really light project. I actually haven't blocked it, so maybe it would grow a little bit more with blocking, but I absolutely love the shape of the bell sleeves. Also really like this kind of boat neck kind of detail. Following on from the more delicate kind of knitwear pieces, this is a pattern that I found on Etsy. It is called the off-shoulder mohair sweater by a knitwear designer called Jego Crochet. This is my first time using an alpaca silk instead of a mohair, which since I use this, I've really fallen in love with alpaca silk as an alternative. Mohair is super itchy on my skin. I've got like very eczema prone sensitive skin, like I've got like little eczema flare-ups all over my arms and shoulders. So when I discovered alpaca silk as an alternative, I was very happy. This is knit up in Drops brushed alpaca silk in like a cream shade. This was a relatively quick knit, again from the bottom up in panels and then seamed together at the end. After this, I was like, right, I am done with the seaming tops together. So you're going to see a bit of a shift after this into a different category. I love the off-shoulder detail. I love kind of the floaty bell sleeves. And I also like the, again, split hem. I did the back of the hem slightly longer than the front, just because I quite like tucking my front in and having my back still out. But something went wrong with this. It's so tight around the armpits, like it proper cuts in, and this just isn't. It's like so tight, there's no stretch there. This taught me a good lesson in kind of binding off, because this is, I literally can't express how tight, there's no give in that, and for that reason it like proper cuts into my armpits. So ideally I would like to make this again either in a size up or just with a way looser gauge, maybe bigger needles, and cast off a lot looser. I love this top. I get a lot of wear out of it. I've worn it quite a few times. It's kind of a tricky garment to wear though, I would say, because it's very warm in the summer, but because it's kind of gappy, it lets air in the winter, so it's kind of not really suitable for many occasions and many weather types. But I've worn this on a night out and it did well. It got red wine on it and I was able to wash the stains out. Really love this top, even though it is really tight and not the most comfortable to wear. Okay, this is a brand new one that some of you won't have seen finished on my YouTube channel before or on Instagram. So I started this in, I want to say July, August, and this was a top that really increased my skills with knitting, but also pushed the boundaries. I love this top, I hate this top. Let's talk through it. So this is the Eloise top by a designer called Friday Knits. I really love supporting designers that aren't so big, as you can tell. And I saw a picture of this on Instagram. I want to say I absolutely fell in love. I love how dainty and delicate it is. I just think this is an absolute masterpiece of knitwear design. So it has a mohair polka dot top half, and then it has like a sweetheart neckline, like bust area, decreases around the waist so that it clinches you in, and also a double knit band at the bottom to help with like a pearl row so it folds really nice. So I learned so many skills in this. The mohair polka dot pattern is done using a popcorn stitch, which is so time consuming. Oh my god. I learned how to do German short rows to shape this bust area. It was my first time doing German short rows. I was so freaked out and so intimidated by them because of everything I'd heard people saying on YouTube about how horrible they were. Absolutely fell in love with German short rows. I love them now. Whenever a pattern has German short rows, I'm all over it. I'm so excited. So yeah, I learned how to do that, and I think for a beginner it's not too bad. And then you work the body with the decreases, and then yeah, finally I learned how to do this double folded rim band at the bottom. I want to say I completed all of this in 2 months, and it took me 3 months to cast on and finish the final sleeve. I just got massive second sleeve syndrome, absolutely hated it, didn't want to do it, hated my life. So I finished this over Christmas week, and I'm so glad it's finally done. Again, I used Drops Kid Silk on the top, and on the body I used Drops Baby Merino in a white shade. It does slightly bug me that this is more of a cream and this is more of a white, but I don't think it's too noticeable. It also really annoys me that one sleeve is bigger than the other one. I don't know why, that like they measured exactly the same. It will be impossible for me now to rip this back because it's mohair and really difficult to work with. I really love the details of this neckline and the sleeves, because I also learned how to do an I-cord edge and an I-cord bind off, which I just again have fallen in love with. I think that's so pretty. The popcorn stitch is just, yeah, first time using a chart to read a pattern, because you have to like chart the stitch definition of this. Oh, and then also one thing I absolutely love about this is it was my first time using a button. So it has this like keyhole detail at the back with a little button, which again I just think is so beautiful, so cute. So this pattern is knit. You do a provisional cast on the back, you work the back in the popcorn, then you work the front whilst shaping for that keyhole, shaping for the neckline, then you work down to the bust, start adding your baby merino all the way around, like with that provisional cast on. I haven't done another provisional cast on since, and I don't really want to. I absolutely hated it, but I think that might have been because the mohair was so annoying to work with. You work the body and then you pick up for the sleeves and continue popcorning. Oh, you do a load, and I mean a freaking load of short rows of the sleeves. So the sleeves you short row back and forth, I think until you get to about here, and then you continue working around. So I think that's why I hated doing the sleeves so much, just because it took so long to do all the short rows and the popcorn stitch, and you're working in magic loop. It just, I hated it. This top is not perfect. There's a lot of gaps. I really don't like this bit here and this bit here, but like I'm still a beginner knitter, and now that this top is complete I'm so proud of it, because I've never seen anything so beautiful as a knitwear piece. So if you're looking for a challenge, I would recommend this pattern. As a beginner I was able to read it or buy it with a lot of googling and a lot of YouTube research, but yeah, super happy with how this came out in the end. Next up, my first ever summer knitted garment. This is the Audrey top by Petite Knit. This wasn't a planned and well thought out knit, but it's ended up being one of my favourite creations of the year. There was a Sadness Garden pattern that I really wanted. I think it's called the Bonnie Sweater. You could only get it in like a Sadness Garden pamphlet book. So I purchased that pattern book from a website, and then they called me up being like, you can only buy this book if you also buy yarn, and like Sadness Gone yarn, and I was like, oh my god. So I had to like impulse make a Sadness Gone yarn purchase. I didn't want to buy a massive sweater quantity of yarn at that point yet. I didn't know what colour I wanted to make the body sweater in, so I ended up really quickly googling like what uses a couple of balls of Sadness Gone, and I ended up finding the Audrey top pattern, which uses 3 balls of Sadness Gone tin liner, which is thin, I think it means thin linen. So this is like a wool and linen blend, which means it's perfect for a summer top. I ended up using like 2 and a tiny bit of the 3rd ball, so I've still got a whole ball left of this pretty much. This was also my first knit on such small needles, and it took a very long time. And you work in the round from the bottom up, split for the front and back, and then work decreases to get this amazing armhole shape, and then you do an I-cord edge and I-cord straps, which I love. I think this looks like I could have bought it from a shop, and as a beginner knitter I was just like, oh my god, I made this, say what? Love the colour that I've chosen, even if it was an impulse purchase. I just love everything about this. I love kind of the halter neck racer style detail at the back. My only gripe about it is I don't really know what to wear underneath. I need like a strapless bra underneath, because otherwise my boobies look a little bit low. But apart from that, it's so perfect for the summer because it's such a nice light, like breathable yarn fabric. Saying that, oh my god, I hated knitting with this. It was so annoying on my hands. My hands just felt really sore when I was knitting this because the yarn is kind of hard and scratchy. It has softened up a tiny bit with blocking. For that reason, I'm not sure I would knit with this yarn again. We shall see, never say never. This felt like it took a really long time to knit, especially this whole body part. I'm really glad I didn't make it any more cropped than this. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to next summer when I can style and wear this up a bit more, because I finished this I think the last week of August, so I didn't get much wear out of it, sadly. Now we're entering autumn territory, and I made quite a lot of stuff the last quarter of the year. So kicking off with my sweater number 1 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I'm so excited to cast on more stuff from this knitwear designer. I've bought quite a few of their patterns now, but this is still the only thing I've made from them. I really wanted an alpaca boucle jumper, and this pattern I saw on Ravelry. Some people had made it in this exact material, and I just thought it was so fun and cozy and soft, especially for autumn winter. So for this I used 2 strands of yarn. Oh my god, this might be my first project where I'm holding 2 strands of yarn together. Okay, well this kicks off a whole new territory then, because I pretty much do that for every project going forward. So I'm holding 1 strand of Drops Alpaca Boucle and 1 strand of Drops Alpaca Silk, and I've made this very beautiful beige, but more of like a grey toned beige boucle jumper. This is so soft. Oh my god, I love it so much. I kind of wish the colour wasn't so cool toned, but I think I am going to make another version of this going forward in the future, but just in a different colour. This kicks off my raglan jumper era. I fell in love with the raglan jumper style because I find it super easy and very quick to knit up. This was a very quick knit. I think it took 2 weeks in total, just because I think the needle size is pretty chunky. What I would say about using these yarns together, it is not beginner friendly, just because you really can't see the stitch definition. So if you made a mistake anywhere, very hard to go back and rectify, because yeah, the stitches are so kind of hard to see because of all this really thick boucle. But I love the neckline. It's a knit one through the back loop purl one, so like a twisted, half twisted rib, and that's on the sleeves as well. As you might have noticed, the one massive problem with this is the sleeve length. One of them is longer than the other, and they are both too short. They're very cropped. I think I got really bored of knitting the sleeves and I just wanted it done, so I cast off too early, which I've definitely learnt my lesson with now. I don't want crop sleeves, I just don't like them. I'm also not a massive fan of the balloon sleeve look, but I followed the pattern pretty much exactly for this. I do love the results, and it's just such a nice cozy warm jumper, and I think I get a lot of compliments on this just because it's so snug. The colour of autumn 2024 was burgundy red. Burgundy red and grey outfits were everywhere, and I really wanted a burgundy jumper. I didn't want to buy one, so I made one instead. This was kind of my first self-drafted pattern. I definitely didn't think I'd ever get to that point last year, but I'm really happy with this jumper and how it came out. It's exactly what I wanted. So I copied a similar raglan to sweater number 1. So I did the twisted rib neckline and the raglan increases, but then I did bell sleeves. I love a bell sleeve, like flared sleeve look, and I did kind of a cropped body. I held 2 strands of yarn together for this. I used Drops Air and Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk, both in red, Bordeaux, burgundy, ruby red shades. All details of all of these projects are on my Ravelry, by the way. I document everything on there in detail, and yeah, I absolutely love this jumper. It's exactly what I wanted. I love that it's cropped and fits with like my higher waist jeans. I'm just really proud of my bell sleeves. I think I did some decreases and a couple of increases, and I still kept the ribbing on the sleeve, which I think is a nice touch. This took me like 2 weeks to make. I think I used like 7mm needles. It was a chunky knit project that worked up really quickly, and I have some ideas of how I would like to upgrade this for next year and potentially bring out my own pattern, obviously with my own neckline and raglan calculations. So stay tuned if you want to see that. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to get into hats and other accessories later, but I did have enough yarn left over from this jumper to make myself a matching hat. So for this I used the Perfect Day beanie, I think by Kuto for Kika. So yeah, a nice little matching beanie hat. I don't actually wear this hat very often. I'm not sure it suits me that much, but it's nice having a matching set option if I ever fancy it. Introducing one of my proudest garments to date. This is the Eun Sweater by November Knits. This is one that I am so proud of. To me, it looks totally store-bought, and I am so proud of myself for making this. So this was when I started getting into more nicer yarns, shall I say. Before then, I'd mainly been using drops or very affordable yarns, and I wanted to splash out. So I treated myself to an order from Knitting for Olive, and for this jumper, I used the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the shade Thundercloud, which is a nice like dark grey, and I held it with 1 strand of Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the shade Midnight, which is more of like a navy blue, and combined together they just make the nicest kind of mild grey navy thick jumper. One thing about this jumper is, oh my god, it is so thick. Whenever I wear this I sweat, so it's definitely more one for deep autumn, winter. But this is a jumper that I am so proud that I made, because it was one that the instructions were very long on, and one that the instructions to me took a lot of reading and working out what you were doing. Like, you really need to pay attention to the instructions when you make this. This was my first time doing a double knit collar, which I love. I've done it a couple of times since and I really enjoy it. I've done it a couple of times since on hats and I really enjoy how that looks. And then this really unique ribbed raglan increase all the way down, and then a lot, like, ribbing is a massive feature of this jumper. So it has the nice long ribbing on the sleeves, and also the long ribbing and split hem of the bottom half of the jumper. This took me a while. I want to say it took about 6-7 weeks, but one that I really loved and enjoyed doing because it was such like a big achievement and confusing instructions. So when you're working the raglan increases, you're also doing German short rows on the back whilst continuing to do this stitch definition, whilst continuing to increase the raglan stitches on the purl side, which means doing this on the purl side yeah, it was a lot to get your head around, but I really enjoyed this project, and this is a jumper that I'm just so proud that I made. I would definitely make this jumper again. She's actually brought out a light version of the Eun Sweater since then, so I'm tempted actually to get that pattern, because I'm sad that I can only wear this when it's like super cold. I'd like to wear it all year round, so for that reason I might as well pick up the light version and knit that up as well. But yeah, so proud of myself for this. What do you guys think? One thing I would say about this, the yarn combination is slightly itchy on my skin. That is because I have sensitive skin, but I do have to wear a long sleeve top underneath this, sadly, if I'm wearing it out all day. Also, I would say that I love this pattern so much that I'm actually currently working on another design by the same designer, so stay tuned to hear more about that. Okay, are you ready for the biggest achievement of my life? This is something that I cannot believe I made with my bare hands from scratch. What the actual hell? So this needs no introduction. This is the Porcelain Sweater by Lynette. I saw a picture of this in September and I fell in love. It was like a non-negotiable that I had to try and knit this. It's my first proper piece of charted colour work, apart from a hat, which I will show you in a bit. I'm just in love with this. It is a massive compliment statement piece, one that I have already got so much wear out of despite only finishing, I think, the first week of December. So this took about 6 weeks to make. I used some of the recommended yarn and some not. So this is knit using Sadness Garn Tin Pig Gint, held double with a mohair. Instead of a mohair, I teamed it with Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk for a couple of options. One, the mohair makes me itch, and two, to bring the price down a bit, because otherwise this would have been a super pricey jumper. I used the shade, I think, Natural Melange and like a cream alpaca, and I used Sadness Garn Jolly Blue, which is like a darker blue, held with like this proper bright blue from Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk, and they together make this really pretty kind of like mild colour work piece, which at first I didn't really like, and now I really like. I think it just makes it look a little bit more rustic, how we have the contrast in blues here. I really fell in love with this project. I really enjoyed knitting it. I have discovered that I'm maybe not so much of a lazy knitter, and I actually really do enjoy taking my time with things and learning new skills. This jumper had a totally new construction that I'd never made before. Not really sure what you'd call it. Cast on just at the neckline at the back, then you increase down like this. That makes no sense. You work the back chart up to about here, and then you pick up stitches. I think you work some German short rows, then you work this bit flat, and then you join in the round and do the rest of the colour work in the round, and then you do the arms. This taught me so much. It taught me about tension with colour work. It taught me this type of technique. It's also got a double knit collar, which is really nice. It has the nice ribbing. Oh, I did have a bit of trouble with one of my sleeves and magic loop. It's not actually too noticeable. I think you'd only notice that if you were really looking out for it. But I didn't have that problem on the other sleeve because I'd learnt my lesson. I filmed an entire project vlog of me making this jumper, so if you're thinking of making it and you're a bit worried, check out that video. I'll leave it up here. I kind of talk about problems as I get to them, so if you're stuck on any particular part of this pattern, definitely check that out because it might be able to give you some help. I would highly recommend this pattern to everyone. I think it was so fun. Loved doing colour work. Definitely going to do more of that in 2025. This is just a huge achievement to me, and one that I am so proud of. I can't believe, like, literally, I picked up some needles in January and by December I had made this. The maths isn't mathing. I'm also so impressed at how well I've lined all these charts up. That's pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. Oh, what I would say is, despite not using mohair, it's still so itchy, and I need to wear a long sleeve top underneath this if I do want it to not itch. Okay, we have two more, and these two were made in December. These were both very quick knits. knits. First up is the Louisiana Sweater by Petite Knit. This is my second Petite Knit pattern. I'd actually bought this yarn for something else. I kind of wanted to freestyle a pattern, but the Louisiana Sweater has been on my list since the spring, so I really wanted to cast it on. So this is using Drops Air and Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. Very affordable knit, again a very quick knit. I would really like to make this again but short sleeved. I have the yarn for that, so I'll be doing that at some point. But I really just wanted a very easy to wear, soft, cozy, non-itchy grey jumper, and this fills that perfectly. I'm not sure about the drape of this. I feel like maybe I should have held the yarn double. It's very loose and airy. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that. It has a double knit. Oh no, I'm wearing it back to front. Wait, one sec. I had a feeling I was wearing it back to front because there is a mistake on the front that I couldn't see just then. I don't have any labels for my clothes. As you can tell, so I leave a little stitch marker in the back. So yeah, it has a double folded ribbed collar and a chunky. It has the raglan increases. It has the nice puffy sleeves and a tiny bit of a balloon. You only do a couple of decreases around here. I've done it, I think, kind of cropped, and yeah, this is just a super easy knit. There was a mistake around here, I think you can tell. I had to like rip back and like redo some of the stitches because I think I'd dropped one by accident, and I still haven't got to grips with that because you can really see some of these stitches are a lot bigger than the others, which is so annoying. I don't think it's too noticeable, but that really has annoyed me with this jumper, so I need to just pay more attention when I am mindlessly doing stockinette stitch. What I would say is if I was to do this again, I would try and do some of my own German short rows because I think the back rides up ever so slightly and that annoys me too. My final garment of the year is a cardigan, and I made this purely because I felt like I was making too many like beige or like not very colourful pieces, and I just wanted a pop of colour in my wardrobe to end the year on. I worked on this over Christmas week when I was up in Harrogate with my in-laws, and again it took like 5 days to finish. Haven't worn this out yet, but I'm really excited to because it's nice and colourful, and right now the weather is so miserable it needs a pop of colour. The main bulk of the yarn is Drops Melody held double, so a yellow, a purple, a pink, and then a green, a lighter purple, a blue, and then I had some Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk left over from this Louisiana sweater, so I held 4 strands of that together to make kind of the same gauge and chunkiness as 2 strands of Drops Melody. I found a pattern on Ravelry. It's called Cardi du Coeur. I will leave the name on the screen because I can't remember the designer. It's nice and colourful. Drops Melody is really nice and soft and fun to work with. It's nice and fluffy. I would definitely use it again. I really love the colour combination I chose for this. I liked the pastels. I feel like this would also be a very good scrappy yarn project. If you had like loads of scraps left over from loads of different projects, you could make a completely rainbow scrappy cardigan using this pattern, holding the yarn multiple times to make it the right gauge. So yeah, I would recommend this pattern. It's a good one for a beginner maybe. They are all the garments that I made in 2024, but I also made some accessories that I would love to share with you. Some of them I don't have with me right now because they were gift knits. Some of them I do, so let's get to it. I made myself a pair of fingerless mittens because I wanted to teach myself cables, and this taught me it. You can see what one I did first because there's a mistake. I don't know what went wrong here, but it's supposed to look like this. These are the White Stag cable mittens. They are really chunky cable knit with ribbing on the top and the bottom and a thumb gusset as well. I still haven't finished weaving my ends in for that. That's really naughty, isn't it? For this I held 1 strand of Drops Charisma with 1 strand of Drops Kid Silk that I just had left over in my stash, and I don't like the colour of this. I was really excited about the colour of this. To me it just looks like I'm wearing a bandage or a plaster. Like it looks to me like I'm wearing a plaster cast, like I've broken my hand. I think I'm just being a little bit too judgmental here, but yeah, I'm not really happy with my colour choice. And also the one that I did first is really way too gappy here. I needed to go down another size in my ribbing. So they're not the best, but it was really fun doing cables, and it's made me love cables. I'm going to be doing my first proper cable knit garment in 2025, which I'm so excited about. But yeah, I really recommend these for a cable beginner because it was a fun, easy, quick pattern to knit up. I knit my mum a pair of knit mittens. I used Drops Charisma in black held with Drops glitter. They were a Christmas gift that she really likes. I love that combination. I knit about 5 versions of the Danny Boy hat. This is a free pattern on Lovecrafts and maybe Ravelry as well. I've made so many of these over the year because I love the stitch definition. It's a really fun project that works out really quickly. So this is actually a Christmas present that I haven't yet sent because I'm really bad. I still need to make a bobble for it. But this, I used Drops Charisma for this and a Drops Kid Silk in like an orange shade. So it's like a mild orange. I think I did the ribbing a tiny bit bigger on this one so that the little boy can fold it over. But I love the Danny Boy pattern. If you're looking for a hat pattern for a child this year, highly recommend this. I made one for my niece, I made one for 2 of my friends' newborn babies, and I've made one for the friend's son. The Danny Boy hat is a pattern by Cascade Yarns. Cascade 220 is the one you're supposed to use with it. I did my niece's one in Cascade 220 and I did the others in a selection of random yarns. Okay, next up I've made 2 versions of the Milder hat by Claire Slade. This is also a free pattern on Ravelry and Lovecrafts. It's a super cute heart hat that you can work up for a child, and I've made 2 of these. I made one for my niece and one for my friend's newborn baby. This was my first time ever doing colour work and it was really fun. The pattern is very kind of short and easy to pick up and put down again, and it's just super cute. Who doesn't want a hat with a little heart on it? I don't know. Then I made another free hat pattern for another friend's newborn baby. This is called the Preemie Hats for Charity pattern. Again, it's a free pattern. These are tiny little hats for premature babies that you can knit up for charity. I made one for a friend's newborn. I wasn't sure how big their head was going to be, so I added an extra increase of the chart onto the end to make it a tiny bit bigger. And the thing I love about this hat pattern is there's loads of different varieties. So there's like one with diamonds, there's one with love hearts, there's one with stripes, there's one with ribs, and there's one with like little eyelet details. So there's loads of different options, and it's a free pattern, which is amazing. I made my dad a hat for Christmas. This is the Ribbed Beanie by Louise Balanos. Handy Little Me. This was a really fun, quick and easy knit that I knit up in Drops Charisma and Drops Air and Drops Kid Silk. I think I used a random selection of yarns to try and match gauge with that. And then finally, as I said, I made the Perfect Day beanie. I made one of these for me, one of these for my sister. This takes a while because it's very long. You knit up a certain amount of inches and then you like fold it down, knit it down should I say, and then you continue knitting, so you can fold it up again if you want, or you can just leave it like that and don't do so much length. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure this fit suits me very well, but it's a hat. I made a bonnet. I made the Bala bonnet, which has been so nice to wear. I'm actually considering making my own version of this slightly differently because I feel like I've got some ideas, but I did a little scarf edition. This is just, it's so super cute, it's super nice and bright. Oh my god, is that everything? I attempted a pair of socks, I failed miserably. I'm never knitting socks again. I made my husband a scarf. I used the same yarn that I used for my scarf, so it's the Cheeky Chunky wool, I want to say, from Wool Couture. It's really soft, it's garter stitched throughout the whole project, and he has been wearing this loads, so really happy about that. And I also learnt how to crochet. I learnt how to crochet my first ever handbag. This is the Trendy Everyday handbag by a designer called By Galk. Really recommend this if you're a beginner knitter. She has videos alongside the pattern so you can see exactly what to do. I love this so much, this bag so much, that I'm actually making it again in a different colour and slightly different shape as well. So if you're new to crochet but you want to learn how to do something, I think a bag is a great way to start. For this I used 2 strands of hooked spaghetti yarn, which is like a t-shirt yarn. So I think it's made using like recycled t-shirt, which I absolutely love. The fact it's a little bit more sustainable. You can see here it is literally like t-shirt material, which is so cool. Love my crochet handbag. Oh my god, I think that's everything. That's been a busy old year for a beginner knitter. I'm definitely thinking that 2025 there will be less amount of knits, but the quality of the knits that I do will be technically more challenging and take more time, and therefore that's why there will be less. 2024 has just been one of the best years of my life, I think, because of knitting. I look forward to the hour at the end of my day where I get to sit down and watch telly and knit so much. I look forward to train journeys because I can just sit and knit. Most of the hats that I made, by the way, were on train. It's just been such a magical year for me discovering this new passion of mine, and so that is why, again, I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a new hobby in 2025, try knitting a scarf. See how you feel, see how it goes. And I'm also thinking of writing a little Instagram post maybe about my 2025 knitting goals. There are some specific goals that I want to achieve within my knitting journey next year. So if you want to see that, come and follow me on Instagram, check those out. I'm really excited to be sharing those. Also considering maybe starting an Instagram account for my knitting. Let me know what you think about that, or should I just continue putting them on my main Instagram page? Let me know. I'd love to know what your favourite thing you've knit this year, last year is. I'd love for you to comment down below what pattern you're most looking forward to making in 2025. I think mine, maybe sweater number 29 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. It's an all over cable knit jumper. If I manage to knit that, I will be so proud of myself. So lots of love to you all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Mwah.